Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Another quick game of Interplanetary I going on here. Back in Gale Crater, back to Mount Sharp. There are buildings on Mount Sharp. If you haven't seen them already, I'll show you some of the earlier structures that I published in some of my recent videos. And I'd like to welcome aboard all the new subscribers from Japan and Sweden and Germany. Great to have you on board, guys. Thanks for signing up. Stay posted, there'll be lots more to come. So right, let's crack straight on with it. Now the first image I'm going to show you today is this one here. This is from Sol 1192. So it's fairly recent. It's not the most recent, but it's only a week or two back, a couple of weeks back. And there's this image here. Now let me show you the main page for it. I've got the main page here. And here's the original image, the raw image. And this is one of the black and white ones. Now, as I've said before, these black and white ones are actually better than the colour images because they don't have that terrible orange filter over them. And once you get rid of the grid that's on this, which you can probably just about see, they're actually much clearer and they don't have loads of compression lines all over them and that kind of thing. So let's crack straight on with it. Now I've got this image already cleaned up. Now what I did with this is I Gaussian blurred it with a radius of 1 or maybe 1.2, I think, perhaps between 1 and 1.2 normally. So it's only a very, very small amount of Gaussian blur, but that completely removes the grid. Let me show you the one with the grid on. I'll show you the raw one. I think this is it here. No, that's not it. That's another one. This is it. There we go. And when you zoom in, you can see all these grid sort of patterns all over it. It makes it very hard to actually see any detail in the image. Why they do that, don't really know. But never mind, it's not that hard to get rid of. You can either use a minimal amount of field blur or Gaussian blur, which I prefer because there's more control over Gaussian blur. You can set the amount exactly to how you want it. And knowing that there are buildings on Mount Sharp, whenever I see structures like this, I get a little bit suspicious. And I'm not saying this is a building, but there are some interesting structures and possible things going on around it. Now, let me show you. Now, as with a lot of these things, until you actually enhance the contrast on the image, you don't actually see anything really, because a lot of the detail is in shadow. Unfortunately, the sun is shining from the wrong direction in this particular case. But when you add some serious contrast to the image, like I've done here, you will see that there is an entrance right here, a square entrance or door to this rather strange looking butte or eroded rock, whatever it's supposed to be. Now, let me show you the previous enhancement I've done. Now, this is just straight off of all I've done here is add contrast and brightness. I think I used fade correction actually, which does that automatically, and I've also added a bit of a brown filter to it just to bring it to life a little bit. I've turned the color temperature up basically to add a little bit of color to it. So there we go, and you can see the square there. All I've done there on this one is enhance it slightly more. I've gone in a bit heavier with the shadow and up the contrast a bit more, just to show what looks like a square door. Now, why would there be a square door in the side of this butte or pyramidal type structure here? Is it a building? It could well be. There are many other buildings in the area, especially up above this, and I'll quickly show you some of you who haven't seen some of my previous videos. I'll quickly go through some of them now just to show you that I'm not making this up. There are many buildings up there. Here's one of them I published very recently. This is called the Mars Giant Hangar, and this one is directly above that area I was just showing you, probably a couple of miles up, well, at least a couple of kilometers up the side of Mount Sharp. And you can see here it has a door, it has a kind of symmetrical structure here, it has kind of steps on the outside, which you can see on both sides here, so it's symmetrical. And let's play that through a little bit. It will actually show you some more enhancements in a minute. But basically, there are multiple structures on Mount Sharp, and some of these are absolutely enormous. This one here particularly is something between 500 and 1,000 feet across, so that gives you an idea of scale. Now, you've really got to go back and watch some of these videos to actually get a real sense of how big some of them are, because when you take them out of context like this, you're not going to get any idea of how large some of these really are. There was also this thing, which is my favourite thing recently. I've done a number of videos on this, but this is the shortest version. This is Mars Huge Pyramid Giant Ziggurat, Tower of Babel. Now, this is enormous. I estimate this to be at least 500 feet tall, possibly a lot bigger. It could even be as tall as the Eiffel Tower, between 900 and 1,000 feet tall. I may be wrong, but this image was taken from miles away. The rover actually took this image a long time ago, initially, and it could be seen almost immediately on the side of Mount Sharp as soon as the rover started to approach this part of Mount Sharp from about 2 years ago. This is from a more recent image, which was a bit closer, but still miles away. A good couple of miles away from the bottom of Mount Sharp, looking up to this massive pyramid structure, which has a square rectangular sort of building next to it here, which is probably part of it. Obviously there's a lot of ruins around here, so most of this stuff's not in great shape, but you can clearly see upright structures and squares and rectangles on the side of this structure, and you can even see, especially if you look at the negative image, you can even see steps going up the side. So there's a step pyramid of some sort with a very large rectangular structure next to it, and there are also buildings below it and around it, multiple structures. So check that one out if you haven't already. Mars Huge Pyramid Giant Ziggurat. That was a recent one. I've done a number of videos on that. There's also one I did a bit earlier, probably a couple of months back now, Buildings on Mars, Digital Image Comparisons. Now this goes into quite a lot of detail about the actual cameras on the rover and the quality of the images that it takes, which are usually not very good, but sometimes they are extremely good, like this one here. The hangar, the giant hangar one, the first one I showed you, this one up here, is this one. Okay, it's just here. The giant ziggurat is way off to the right, off camera here, so you won't see it in this particular video because it's too far over. But the rover has moved around and took some shots from further around since this picture was taken, and it shows up right up in the top corner up here. So there are a number of these large format TIFF images that are available, and you can link to them directly from these videos. So if you want to download these images, go to the video, look at the description, and there will be a link underneath for the relevant picture or source image. But there are multiple buildings up here, and some of these are really blatantly, obviously not just natural structures like this one here. You can clearly see right angles here. This is a ruined building, kind of facing that giant hangar type building. It's to the left of it, but in the same area. But it may well be up to a mile away from it, because the scale of these things is so enormous. It's very hard to get an idea when you're just quickly flicking through these things. And there was this one, which is also doing rather well actually. This one, Mars Dome Entrance, huge buildings and structures at Mount Sharp, I think it's called. And this is what looks like an aqueduct, or possibly a train station, or some kind of intelligent structure here. You can see this diagonal line here looks like an entrance to this massive dome. And there is a very straight line here which slopes at 1 degree. Now, aqueducts, incidentally, are usually set to 1 degree so that the water will travel from one area to another. Now, it may not be an aqueduct, it may be something else, but this area was once full of water. This is the enhancement, and even before you enhance this image, you can see lots of uprights in here, lots of upright structures, and also above it, up here on the mountainside, there looks to be like some kind of habitation. Perhaps there were people living in the mountainside here. Don't know, but there do seem to be window-like structures along the side here, which can be seen in some of the high-resolution images. So there were buildings on Mount Sharp. There still are buildings on Mount Sharp. They all basically look dilapidated and ruined. So when looking at these so-called natural structures on Mars, a closer attention is needed to what may or may not be natural structures like this one here. Now, normally I would have overlooked that, but because I've published so many structures recently in this area, and this is at the bottom of Mount Sharp, those other ones were mainly much further up, apart from the dome entrance, which is further over to the left of here, which is only probably about a quarter of a mile away, actually, about half a mile at the most. Those big pyramid structures are way further up from here. But if there are pyramids in the area, then every large rock structure like this should be examined in case there are or is more evidence to be seen, and this I do think is. It's not particularly clear, unfortunately it's in shadow, but it's definitely a square door-like structure on the side of this thing, and what look like interesting structures up here as well. They may be windows, but unfortunately it's quite a long way off. It's quite deceptive. The rover is actually quite close to this dune and was doing some examination of the actual sand dune here, because of Mars having less gravity, of course, the dunes can get very large and quite steep, and form interesting shapes that you may not get so much on Earth because of the gravitational difference. But if you look at this particular structure, it looks like it's not very far away, but actually beyond this dune it drops right down into the lake bed and then goes back up. So this is probably a good couple of miles away. I would say between 1 and 2 miles, because the rover rarely gets any closer than a couple of miles to the actual base of Mount Sharp, because there's a huge lake stroke riverbed going across here out of shot, which you can't see, and I think the rover would have great difficulty in crossing it because it would probably sink, because there's wet sand down there. So they've been avoiding it like the plague for the last couple of years, but at some point they will cross it when they find a suitable crossing area to go up Logan Pass towards those other structures that I showed you. And this is a stunning image. It's one of my favourite ones recently. From this angle, it just looks great. I mean, you've got real contrast. Obviously, I've enhanced this image. You've got some lovely contrast in there, which I've added. But even there, just with a basic contrast and the colour temperature turned up, you can see that there's a square structure here and other square structures in here as well. Now, some of the smaller ones are obviously down to pixelation, but that large one there can even be seen in the basic enhancement. So it's there. There's no doubt that it's there. The question is it a door? It looks like a door. It looks like some kind of intelligent structure, like there are all over this place on Mars. They're all over the place. There are multiple buildings up Mount Sharp. There's also this thing which I published quite a while back now. This is called the Mars Obelisk, Monolith and Pyramid Buildings. This one I think I published about over a year ago now, maybe a year and a half. This is one of my favourite finds. This is really cool. This is enormous. This is not in Gale Crater. This is much further away from there. This is around the other side of the planet, I think. It does tell you in the description exactly where it is. And this thing is hundreds and hundreds of feet tall. I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's absolutely enormous. And is almost perfectly symmetrical. And is next, or overlooking, what looks like a freshwater lake or hot spring lake, possibly. Okay, so that's well worth checking out, that one, the Mars Obelisk there. That's one of my favourite finds from the recent buildings I found on Mars in the last couple of years. So check it out, guys. And also, if you're a newcomer to ArtAlien, then there is this free app which you may or may not know about, or may not have already. There's an Android and HTML5 version, so you can put that on your iPhone, or you can even have it on your desktop. This is completely free, and it will link you to... Let's install it. Yeah, this is a new computer now, so I'm reinstalling it on here. This will link you to millions and millions of space images taken by NASA, by JAXA, by the Russians, by the European Space Agency, by everybody. And basically what I did, I got fed up of having multiple apps on my device. So what I did is I got all the space apps out there, which are, a lot of them are free, some of them aren't. I got all those space apps, and I built them all into this app. So basically, this app will do everything that all those other apps do, but in one app. This will link you to all sorts of interesting sites, as well as my YouTube channel and others. I've got a lot of the top Mars Anomaly channels are on here. There's everything on here. I mean, I use it when I'm on holiday or when I'm out of the house, if I want to carry on doing research when I'm traveling to London or whatever. It comes in very useful. It has absolutely millions and millions of pictures to link to from here. So it's a great app. It's absolutely free. If you do download it and you like it, please give it a vote up, because no one seems to be voting for it at the moment. So yeah, give it the thumbs up if you like it. It is totally free. There's no ads on it. There's no advertising. So thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you soon.